Run it up, then run it back.
Well, welcome back. We're going to be joined now by someone we have a lot in common with, guys, from The Athletic. He, too, suffered the loss of Shams Charania in the offseason. Sam Amick joins the show now. How are you dealing with the loss, sir?
A little too soon, Michelle. Too soon.
Yeah.
That hurts. That hurts.
Going open
What's
women.
up, everybody? Appreciate you having me.
Yep, he's missed. All right, we're going to start with the 76ers. It's so much drama. It's like the Jets of the NBA at this point. We know about the Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. We know about the leaked meeting, and I want to get to how it gets leaked in the first place. But as far as what that relationship looks like right now, is it better? What can you tell us?
It's funny, and the guys can speak to this eventually. For me, and all the time I've done this, I don't remember something where what seems to have happened in the locker room was so direct and on point and kind of like a fastball up by the chin. But then on the back end of it, everybody involved says the relationship is fine, that Tyrese and Joel, that this is how they are. This is, what they've built over these past 5 years of working together. And that's on both sides of the equation. Joel obviously has spoken publicly about how he sees it. He's upset that it got leaked, but he's not really pushing back against the substance of what Tyrese shared, which is that he's just got to be a better pro. So, all indications are they're good there. They're not good in many other places. As you guys know, Philly is struggling.
Yeah. See, my Sam thing, when things come out like this, there's just certain things that have to be in-house. But then when you're losing, obviously everything is even magnified, even worse and more. And
yep.
I know Joel a little bit, and the not playing is one thing. The coming late consistently, now that is where I get a little confused on that. Like him actually being late to everything is what I read.
That's the thing. I mean, I'll be honest, guys. I knew that his professionalism had been questioned consistently, around the league and within the organization. I was a little surprised by, the second the top was blown off this story, then all of a sudden, in these conversations that you're constantly having with folks around the league, the narrative instantly became like, oh, you in the media, y'all have been way too soft on him, and this has been going on forever. And that contrast between, the discussion before and the discussion after was pretty great. I'm still not sure what my take is on how much folks are piling on versus what's really been the case.
Right.
But, the weight is something that yes, within the Sixers, that has been a concern for a long time, and it's that kind of first guy to the gym mentality that he has not necessarily always had. I am empathetic to the big fella, though, because he's such an incredible player. And then you just see this almost decade-long stretch now of his body failing him. And that's got to be tough, of course.
Yeah.
I always wonder about this because you guys like on the TV side of things, right? When we hear audio gets leaked or a tape gets leaked, there's usually motivation. The person's either hated, they burned bridges. It's a professional hit piece. That's why I'm always a little fascinated by these leaks. I like the idea though that he was the headlines are like Joel Embiid adamant about finding the leak, who I've been referring to as the rat. That's not a thing, right? There's no actual activity going on to find out, or is it just let it be?
I can't speak for him. I actually want, Chandler and Lou to weigh in here because you guys are smart as hell. And the part that cracks me up is that it's, the circle's only so tight. And when Joel acts so confused, I'm not trying to say that he knows or I know for sure where it originally came from, but we know how this goes. You end up talking to your people, the circle expands. No, I don't think Joel's going to find the guy or the woman. And if he did, I don't know that it would really matter all that much. It's something where maybe it's a way for him to just kind of, if I'm being honest, to not really, really, really have to talk about the content of the discussion as much as it's not something he wants to have a public discourse about. I mentioned to somebody yesterday, it makes me think of the Draymond Jordan Poole situation with the Warriors when it was, a lot of Warriors officials kind of throwing their hands up saying, oh, we're going to find the person. And then 2 weeks goes by and suddenly they kind of stop trying. To me, that part's going to go away.
That was even worse, though, because that's an actual video that got leaked.
Real.
100%.
I remember when I was in Memphis, there was a time where remember Garrett Temple and Omri Caspi, two of the nicest guys I've ever played with. They got in a fist fight in the locker room after a game. And it was literally punches thrown, they beat the shit out of each other. Right.
Damn.
We had a whole thing afterwards. This doesn't get out.
Y'all didn't break it up.
We let him scrap. We let him scrap. And we were like, we stopped it. We whatever stopped. We were like, all right, this doesn't get out here. The next day, like it was like a Woj bomb or Shams reported it. So like we spent somewhat, and it was we were just so caught off guard. Like, all right, who said? Like we literally just had a team meeting. So that to me, it's like we got so caught up in who leaked it rather than the actual issue. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah. Sam, you know, this is what you guys got to understand, right? You spend so much time together when you're traveling, you're on the road, you do these team bondings, these team meetings, you do the pre-camps and all of those things. It gets to a point where you're spending more time with the organization than you are with your family in a lot of different aspects of your life. So when things like this, you want to know who can't you trust? Who's the guy in here that you can't talk around, you can't vent to in a bad game? You know, listen, we're all human. We're all going to gossip a little bit after the game.
Right.
Bro, this X, Y, and Z play like trash tonight. You want to be able to be comfortable to have those conversations because it's all done in good faith, you know? And so once these things start going out to the media, you just want to know who you can trust and who you can communicate to. And I think that's what makes it more of a thing than anything. You know, when you're Joel Embiid, and you, like you said, you spent, you know, a decade or so in one organization, you trust these people. These are people you give your playoff bonuses to. These are people that you help, or if you can change something, they want some tickets to something and you can take them to an Eagles game and you got a suite. You know, these are people that you're inviting in your personal space. And if they're taking that for granted and they're using that against you, you know, for whatever reasons to leak information, you want to know who that person is.
I hear that, Lou, for sure. And I wonder real quick to kind of throw it back to you. Like, to me, the counter would be that if I was a player, it's not always as clear cut as somebody being a rat. You know what I mean? Like the reality of the human condition with what we do is everybody talks, and that next person you tell it to, they might not have circled back with the player to get a green light on sharing it. You know what I mean? So that to me is where, unless everybody just makes a decision that we're not even telling family about this, we're not telling agents, we're not telling anybody, then you know, more often than not, some stuff's going to get out.
And let's be honest, nowadays with social media too, Lou, like, you know, you tell one of your boys, your girlfriend, your wife, anything, that can get out to the lady doing her nails. The next thing you know, it's on. Like, I mean, it is
that's
so. That would have happened a lot more.
That's
back
the first
in the
thing you
day.
do.
Well,
What's
and
the
that's
first
the thing.
thing you do when you're done with a game? You call home, you call your boys, you call your girl, you call your agent, you do all your check-ins, and if something exciting happened, you want to share that something exciting happened, and that person you can't determine how they're going to share that information or not.
Exactly. And I've been through it a million times, media-wise. You know, I've had times when folks are hunting really hard for, you know, whoever, you know, helped me leak something, and the reality is, you know, I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, man, it's not as personal as they might think. It's just people being people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it seem a lot less nefarious when you put it that way. Look, we as a show, I think, Chandler started this, but we've kind of gotten to the point with the Joel Embiid injury situation that it feels like we're postponing the inevitable here, right? Like, this is a bigger injury than we're being told, and that eventually it's just going to be an all-out shutdown procedure, what have you. The added part that the Olympics were played in, I think, is what's really giving it a bigger stink, Sam. Is there an injury being hidden? Are they just not sure how bad it is? Like, what's actually going on?
So, Michelle, my understanding is that I do believe there was, you know, a setback of some kind at some point along the way. But where it gets tricky is that Joel is kind of notoriously private about, you know, his business, about his body. And he, on a routine basis, basically pushes the Sixers to be, you know, as secretive as he wants them to be. Now, that got them in trouble. That is why they got fined recently. It wasn't about, you know, initially we thought they were going to get hit for the load management comments that they made to ESPN. On the back end, what it was the league spent 3 days legitimately investigating Joel's situation. And when I say that, and you guys know this, I think the fans sometimes don't really understand what investigating means. We're not talking about a couple phone calls and barely digging in. We're talking about medical records, documents, you know, maybe in different times, phone records. You know, they really dug in, and their conclusion was that Joel's left knee situation was legitimate, was serious, and was worthy of the kind of handling that the Sixers were giving it. The only reason they got fined is because their public statements were in such contrast to what was happening privately. They had said basically that he was healthy and that he was ready to go, and they made it seem as if they were doing load management without, you know, an actual injury, and that doesn't jive with the TV partners, and that's not the direction the league is going. It is a confusing situation because I was in France with Team USA covering the Olympics and talking to people from the national team. What struck me is that what we saw on TV and on the court is one thing. When I learned that he didn't miss a practice, he didn't miss a shoot around, that he was a 100% participant in all the national team activities, now you try to reconcile that with the way he's been moving during the NBA season. Just common sense tells you, like, okay, something in between went down. I don't know the exact medical, term that we would put on this. They are not sharing it, but it does seem real. And like you said, the way it's tracking is pretty concerning for him.
Sam, I'll tell you this, especially as someone who's been through a lot of knee surgeries and injuries in my career, most players get second and third opinions. So not that you don't trust or don't like the team doctor, but like when I played in Memphis, I would go see Elatrosh in LA. I'd go see Riley Williams. There was one time where my team thought I was seeing a doctor. I went to Germany and did the Kobe shots. So there's things that you do and your agent do that is discreet even from the team, from the league. So there is a situation where that is possible and the team doesn't know everything, but usually they at least can see the MRI scan. They can see everything, even if you get the second and third opinion. But
no, I get the sense I hear all that, Chandler. They know. They're just not. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody who's in the tight circle and had been admittedly pushing, saying, what do we call this? Like, what is the medical term? And that's where the, communication and the cooperation came to an end. That's not something they're willing to share. So that is when I do think the Sixers have clarity about what Joel is up against and what he's dealing with. They don't feel like sharing it with the public.
Just feels like it's messier than it should be. But
and by the way, you can just physically see that he's not himself. He wasn't himself during the Olympics. The way he moves, the way he cuts, like there's something there that I don't think is just going to heal, Sam. I think it's something that needs to be fixed.
Well, and to that point, because this is a major, major question, in that same conversation, I had asked essentially, like, was there any regret about doing the extension, right? And also, did you know at that time? And the answers I got were yes, we knew, and that there was a confidence level and their ability to manage it going forward. But they'll acknowledge that it's, to keep it with the Vegas odds mentality, like the odds are okay. They're not great, and they felt good enough about it to do that deal, but they certainly can't guarantee that he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Sam, I know you guys over at The Athletic had a story about, and we haven't had a good agency breakup story in a minute, but Zion Williamson parting ways with his agency. What's the deal? What's the timing? All of it. What happened? And it's CAA, the monsters.
It is. And I mean, that one, I don't admittedly have total clarity other than the general feeling of, Zion's struggles continuing as far as, that gap between who he can be and what the Pelicans would love him to be, what his family would love him to be, what the fans thought he was going to be, and who he truly is. It's another guy where your body is failing you. Obviously, that hamstring situation is the latest thing. And this, to me, it's funny. I had somebody hit me and was not thrilled that, we made this a headline. And because, we don't report every single agent player change. And my answer to that was, listen, this is a guy who's had the same agency, the same agent since coming into the league. And when he came into the league, he was like a shooting star. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't wait to see this guy who was the biggest prospect really since LeBron. And then it's just been nothing but struggle and adversity ever since then. So the decision to part ways kind of mutually, to be honest, I think both sides realizing it's just, that business part of the relationship and their partnership wasn't working anymore. It's notable because to me, it reflects continued instability. It reflects, some level of angst as far as Zion and how he is trying to shape his career and who he thinks is running his ship. I have to assume, and this is an assumption, I think it's probably a pretty safe one, that if you get into the granular stuff of his contract, which is one of the most unique in the league, which still leaves the Pelicans certain outs to get off massive guaranteed money based on health thresholds and all kinds of specific, conditions of his deal that were the kind of the reflection of what he'd been through physically, then I can't imagine he's excited about that right now because he's still vulnerable. I don't think the Pelicans are going to exercise that stuff. I'd be surprised if they do. But, that's the business stuff that the agency handles. And so next thing you know, he's parting ways.
Man, it's messy, Sam. Next time we'll get you on. We'll talk about good, happy, fun stories. Like the Cleveland Cavaliers, things like that. Next time.
Is it too early to drink? This was tough. Yeah.
It's never too early. Check him out. The Athletic, Sam Amick. Chandler's been drinking. We'll be back.
Nice. You too.